So today for our paint night demo, we are going to be making this beautiful little flower thing. Actually, I'm not sure if this is the right way up. I think yeah, the flower should be the bottom. So with this guy, a little bit simpler in technique than a lot of the other ones I do. However, the shapes here are a little bit more specific and therefore complicated. But the background's pretty easy. We're gonna start by mixing up, actually we're gonna start because this is gonna need a lot of spread around on the canvas. Putting our big paintbrush in our water, just paint water, nothing special about it. And then painting our canvas with some water. So this will hydrate the canvas, particularly when you're doing big, long up and down strokes like this. Just helps everything blend together a bit more easily. And there is such a thing as overdoing it with the water. If you put too much water on, what you'll notice is as soon as you put paint on there, it'll start spreading right away. So to avoid that, what you can do is once you've got your water on there, just check by running your hand across it. If it starts to kind of pool a little bit, it means probably you've got a little bit too much water, but you can always just take your hand, wipe it down, work it into that canvas a little bit, like that. You can also do that with paper towel. It's pretty easy. So next, we want to start thinking about the background here. The background is grays, or a mix of grays, so lots of blacks and whites. So what we need to do here is we're first going to start off by just mixing up a gray, and then we'll probably play around with it a bit. So I'm going to just take my white off to the side here. When you want to make gray, you're going to mix white and black. So I'm going to take a little bit of black, mix that, it's probably too much black, mix that into my white here, and I'm going to start with a pretty dark gray, I would say. This is pretty dark for what we want, but that's okay. We just need a place to start pretty much. So I'm gonna start mixing up this gray here. I'm gonna go a little bit lighter with this actually. Alrighty, so we've got a nice gray to work with. This will be kind of our baseline gray. We'll come back to it a couple times. And then after you've mixed up that baseline gray, we're just gonna throw it in a couple of different places. The biggest thing you wanna keep in mind when you do this is the strokes should be up and down. So up, down, like this. And we're just gonna throw those. You can do different sort of sizes of strokes, different strokes from all over the place. From here, you don't really need to wash your brush, I think, too much, but we're just gonna dip straight into white. So right into the white, and then we're gonna start putting this on. And we're gonna start mixing these guys together a little bit. We should see spots here and there. Some spots of light gray, some spots of dark grays. And we're just gonna use these long back and forth strokes to start. I think I picked up too much gray on my brush, so I'm just gonna give it a little bit of a wash. Bring some more white into it. We need lots of white for this one. Dip into our white paint, and then just apply more white paint. And we're looking for areas of lightness and darkness. That's the effect we're going for. If you need to, you wanna push your paint around a little bit more, just dip into your paint water, and then you can use that to work your paint a little bit more. We wanna see a lot of streaks going on here and a lot of different things. So I'm just going to be adding some more white right to the center here. Go up and down. Try to remember to get the sides if you can. I always forget. Thanks so much for the likes. I love the Halloween emoji. So I always try to remember to get the sides. I'm not the best at remembering to do it, but it does make a difference in the final product. It will look a lot more polished if you do get the sides. It looks a little bit almost unfinished if you forget to do them. It's not necessary, obviously, and some people maybe like unpainted sides, but usually people prefer them painted. All right, gonna go in with some more white. Again, just kind of painting in between and over top of these grays here. As I paint, the paint will smush together on the canvas, much like you're mixing it on an actual palette, and then it kind of blurs into one. So if you work it too much, what's gonna happen is that this is gonna come together in one solid color, and that's not what we want. We're looking for lots of variation. So let's get a little bit more white on this guy, and then probably a bit more water on my brush. Up and down, up and down, up and down. Getting the sides and the top nicely covered in paint. Actually, this one you could probably get away without doing too much to the sides because it is white, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Alrighty, there we go. Okay, so now we've got a nice variation going on, but we do want to see a little bit more going. So I'm just gonna start dipping into my gray, and we're gonna add some slightly smaller scritches of gray here. So add a little bit there, a little bit there. Let's get a little bit of black in there too. Just not too much. Black goes a long way and it'll really contaminate the canvas. So we're gonna get a little bit of black going on. There, a little bit more. And then once we get a couple of these guys down there, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our brush, maybe wash our brush first. And then we're just going to work these guys in by painting over them. It'll give it a little bit of a blend, help it smooth itself into the back of the canvas there. And as long as we don't touch them too much, we'll still end up with these nice streaks. Now, there's a lot more going on here. I think if you were doing this paint night by yourself, thanks so much for the like, Smiley. You could probably get in here and just do this and probably it would look just fine. But I am gonna look for a little bit more texture because that's what we've got going on here. I'm gonna mix black and gray, add a little bit there, get a bit more black on the go. Especially near the bottom here, we could use a bit more. And that looks nice. Okay, now wash brush again, get a little bit of that paint off, and then come over here, up, down, just pulling these guys down here. And you can see as we do this, naturally, we're gonna be making all of these interesting brush strokes. We're gonna be getting this paint all over the place. And we wind up with a nice, varied texture that looks a little bit like wood, kind of like an ash or a poplar or something like that. I don't know, I'm not an expert on wood, so I don't know if it actually looks like ash, but it definitely looks a little bit populary. Okay, at this point, I think I'm getting closer, you know what, close enough for government work. I might just put in a couple spots of pure white to help get a little bit more lightness going on in some places. This one likes that. And then just get a couple streaks there. The white blends in pretty easily. But yeah, there we go. Got some nice, beautiful, woody looking background. Now, to complete our wood illusion, because when you're painting, pretty much you're just making illusions, we're going to need to add in some straight lines. I need 2 of them. So I'm gonna divide my canvas into thirds. You can use your brush like this. 1/3 here, 1/3 here. And then we can do one really straight gray line up and down. So I'm gonna use that gray that I first mixed up, that sort of default one. Taking an art class in school, and I'm not very good at most art things, but I'm certainly am crafty and it's fun. You're correct, I'm the same. I'm also typically not that good at art things, or at least I didn't start out that way. Still, I don't feel very good at a lot of things. But I have always been a little bit crafty, always enjoyed working with hands and being creative. So I found that it's actually something that really is amenable to me. So you sound like you're in a very similar boat there. Alrighty, so I might even just take a little bit of black and put it in my gray. And then we're gonna, I don't know if this is gonna work, let's see. Yeah, that'll be all right. Okay, so now I'm gonna find my canvas about 1/3. So this is a little bit too much, but that's fine. You can always just smoosh it down. About 1/3 there, about 1/3 there. So if I put like a prick there and a prick there, that looks a little bit okay. This one I might want to pull over just a bit. And that looks like it's gonna be pretty good. So let's go ahead, dip into my paint. And then this can be a little bit challenging at times to get a straight line, but it's all right. Wood's not always straight. So what we'll do is come up here, and I'm gonna be trying to be as straight as I can. So there's one, looks like a board to me. Next one. Get a little bit more black and gray on my brush. And then, I usually find it actually easier to pull down from the top, so I think I'm just gonna come down here, make sure that that still looks like it's about 1/3. Whoa, maybe a bit too thick. And we'll come down here. When we wind up putting lines like this in, and maybe they're a little bit too thick for us, or I don't know, this one's, yeah, a little bit not balanced, but that's all right. When they're a bit too thick, what you can do is take your brush, wash it off, just make sure that you don't have any meaningful amount of paint on there, and then we can come over here and we can just smooth out these lines a little bit, possibly with a little bit of white paint. You know what, now I'm looking at this, I think I'm gonna redo this one because it's just too far out to the center, so I'm just going to paint over this. Let's add a little bit of white to it. And then we'll try that again. So, wash my brush. Get it nice and dry. One of the great things about art, particularly painting with acrylics, is that paint, handily covers up other paint, so it's usually pretty simple to do a little bit of that. And this one worked a little bit better when I started from the bottom and went up last time, so let's try that. Okay, cool. Not the straightest line, but that's all right. That is, I think, good enough for us. So we've got a nice little illusion of wood going on here. Could be a little bit darker, maybe. I think I might come back in with a little bit more black and just try to get that line really nicely accentuated. Wow, I might even have them come in with a detail brush and do that when I teach this one tonight, but big ones sometimes can be a little bit challenging. Okay, so this is an unfortunate one, I think, because I really got to give it some time to wait to dry before I can really move on to any meaningful amount of the next steps here. But I'm thinking, if our circle starts up here-ish and then comes around here, I can probably outline the circle. And this is a great time to do it because if you make any mistakes, it's still wet. You can just kind of erase the mistakes away. So I think what we're gonna do is, what brush do I want to swap to? I do feel like the big one is less ideal than like a detail brush for this, but my detail brush is not that thick. So let me think here. Maybe we'll start with a detail brush, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So we're gonna start with a dark-ish color. And I wanna know where my circle is gonna go. That would be ideal. So what I will do is I'll first just draw a nice circle here. The circle is gonna, well, it's an oval, I guess. It's not quite circular, but it's gonna start maybe right about there, come down to right about there, and then it's gonna come down to about here and here. So just shy of the top here. We wanna give ourselves a lot of space for this to grow, so I'm even gonna go a little bit farther than that, down maybe here. And then we'll come around this way maybe. And like that. So now we've got a nice faint circle. This will help guide us and also tell us kind of where we're going off track, right? So on this side, I think I need to pull this out a little bit more. If you want to do a little erase, that's okay. I don't think this is necessary, but you can always just go back like this if it makes you feel a little more comfortable, because it's going to be covered in a lot of stuff here as we go. Alrighty. So now we expand that guy out there. Beautiful. Okay, I think that that's really good. It's not quite center of my canvas, but it doesn't need to be, especially for these purposes. So now I need to dissect this just a little bit. Around this edge of our circle here, we're gonna have some feathery strokes coming out. Those are probably the easiest things. But the most complicated thing is this kind of like intertwined, sort of braided pattern we've got going on. So I think next we're gonna worry about that. And that's gonna be in, a very dark gray coming up on black. So I'm gonna start with my detail brush and probably just map that out, mixing a bunch of black into this gray that I first mixed so that it's just like a really, really dark gray. Lots of paint on my detail brush because it'll kind of like, not really, what's the word? It will not really carry a lot of paint. So if I can load it up with paint, it'll go a little bit further. So now, if we want to do this braided pattern, I don't know how to braid because I'm not oh no. I feel like all girls know how to braid, but I feel like that is not something that applies to me. So I am just going to think this through. If I go up here, wave up like that, and then I thread another one through that way. Interesting. Huh. Okay, let's just go for it and see what happens. So if we go up and down like this the whole way through, can we then just run another one through, I wonder? I think we do. I maybe should research a braid pattern actually before I commit to this, but I am figuring this out live, so. Whoa, this one's a little bit short. Not quite matching up where I'd like it to, but that's all right. We can always throw a flower in front of it. That's the golden rule of art. Okay, and then let's map out another line here. Think this through. So now we want to kind of intertwine things. So it looks like now there's going to be a similar sort of wave pattern coming through, but it's not going to have the amplitude quite as high, and it's going to go through the middle of these guys. So kind of go, amplitude is going to be in the middle. So if we go, start it over here, let's say. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'm liking it so far. I need to go back in with a bigger paintbrush and make the line a lot thicker. But I think that we're heading in the right direction. We need one more though, and it needs to kind of be the counterpart to this other one. So every place where this one comes up, I want the other one to come down, and it is just gonna like twist in there. So let's put this one down, come up there. Yeah, it looks like some branches all intertwining. Looks like a wreath to me. Okay, I'm happy with this. I think that I'm happy enough to commit to it. I'm just gonna throw in the other line, finish doing this mapping out that I've been doing, and then we're gonna go ahead and reinforce these lines. So, what do you like about arts and crafts? May I ask? I love the creativity involved. And unfortunately, paint knives, the way that I do them right now, don't really allow for much creativity, but they do get people painting, which is always nice. Okay, I think that is good. Looking at my wreath versus this one, again, we could do a couple things different here to make it a little bit more centered, but I think I'm happy enough with it right now. So I'm just gonna go in with my black gray paint here, and we're just gonna reinforce these lines. So let's go ahead and do it. We'll start where we see full ones, and then just come down and give them nice, strong lines. Lots of water helps with this too. So I'm going to mix a good amount of water into my paint. Nice. This is coming together pretty well. It might look a bit shabby right now because it is, but when we throw flowers on top of this, it'll be beautiful. And I do throw these recordings up on YouTube. I just started doing it actually, my last one. I'm starting to throw these recordings up on my YouTube channel. So Mactacular Art, if you're interested in checking this out later on, feel free to go check it out on my YouTube channel. Should be up, I would say, probably later today or tomorrow. No editing, raw. I mean, eventually I'd probably like to do some editing, but right now, no editing is what we do. Alright, so coming through, tracing these lines. Nice mindful activity. Thanks so much for the follow. Don't know who that was. That was, Ghostly Cole 8. Delightful. Okay. I think my lines might have merged into one line at some point in time, but that's alright. We don't need to worry about that too much. At this point, I'm going to now do these big ones on the outside. I think when I teach this, I'm going to call these big wavy boys, because these lines up here are a lot wavier than the other ones that go through the middle. Look at me. I learned how to braid today. For anybody who's watching and thinks that they can't do it, or if they're maybe even trying this out at home themselves and they're like, yeah, it's not coming out exactly the way Max is. That's okay. This one's not coming out exactly the way I'd want it to either. It is just what it is, and that's the nice thing about art. It's a very good opportunity to be practice being not a perfectionist. Which is what a lot of people struggle with. Apparently, especially if you enjoy art, tend to really, really like things to be perfect. I think right around here is where I screwed up my lines, but that's okay. We don't have to have our lines be exactly perfect. Okay. This is generally going pretty good. I'm a little bit suspicious of a couple things, but that's alright. I think we'll continue on with this, and then it'll end up looking just fine at the end of the day. Biggest thing when putting these lines in, or a really good tip at least, is just avoid scratchiness on the outsides, and you can avoid that by putting lots of water in your paint or mixing lots of water with your paint. It will result in smoother, cleaner lines up until when you run out of paint. And then once you start running out of paint, you'll notice it gets a little bit scratchy. That's your cue to get back into the paint, possibly get back into your water, and then continue on with the line. I guarantee you this is exactly where I screwed up with my line, right here. I can see the lines now going from one line to the other. But you probably can't even tell, so that's okay. Alright, coming in here, putting it up here. I wish I had a bigger brush. I really wish I had a liner brush for this, actually. Unfortunately, I am limited to working with the supplies that I'm given for the paint night. And honestly, if you're doing paint nights, it's really tough to carry around every single kind of brush with you. You know, you kind of have to pick your top 3 most useful brushes in that moment and take those for whatever the project is. And let's keep going. We're almost done with these branchy guys, which is real nice because I'm getting kind of bored of them. Again, nice mindful activity. It's really good just to like meditate and chill and do it. So I'm gonna stop talking and try to follow my own advice. Beauty. Whoa. Coming right off there. No worries though. And yeah, you can always add in some more braids and stuff, particularly if you want to fix the shape of your wreath. So let's say that I want to make this wreath look a little bit more centered. So that means that I would need to get a little bit less space on this side, a little bit less space on the top. So if I wanted to even maybe just throw a guy up here. This is an excellent tip, actually, because when you wind wreaths together like this, though they might have a pattern, oftentimes they don't really follow a particular pattern. So when people have trouble drawing circles like myself, they can maybe just do something like this to bring it out and make it appear a little bit more centered. Now that is naturally going to make this side a little bit thicker looking than that side, but that's okay. Because, again, wreaths are often, you know, kind of almost random looking in a way. Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with where things are at with the wreath life. I would maybe want to expand this one a little bit more, but I don't want to risk making it too thick looking over there. We can always kind of cinch up the middle too, add a couple more of these like winding lines down here. So if I wanted to add in another one like right there and right there, make my wreath look maybe a little bit bulkier. And then eventually this will just kind of run into one of those lines. Doesn't have to make exact sense. So I think this wreath is looking pretty good. We've got a nice start on it. From here, what we need to do is let it dry. There's only one thing to do at this point, which is just give it a minute. So you can take a minute, enjoy, relax, listen to the music. You can ask questions if you want. I will answer them best I can, particularly about painting. Oh wow, let me think. This will probably take about 5-10 minutes to dry. So in the meantime, in between time, I can start thinking about what else I want to do. Oh, you know what? Maybe I don't need to wait for it to dry. There's a couple things I can be doing here. Silly me. I also didn't really think I would enough to leave enough space here. Let me take a look at where these strokes are coming from. They're kind of like right behind the thing. Okay. New plan. I think I've devised what I was supposed to do originally, but I didn't do. Instead of drawing a circle like that, you should kind of feather off on the sides, but this is all right. So to add these little like flicky strokes on the sides, that's absolutely something we can do right now, and absolutely something that we're gonna have to do before the flowers go on it. So I'm gonna take my big brush like this with a little bit of dark gray on it. That's gray is black and white mixed together. And then I'm gonna come to the sides here and I'm just gonna flick like this. So when I'm doing this, I'm dragging it in the direction that the flat side of the paintbrush is going, which is hard to understand, but I'm going this way. With the or against the grain of the paintbrush. That's a good way of saying it, against the grain. And so when I add these guys on, I really just want them to be like little flicks. Light pressure, just like that. I could even maybe do these with the detail brush, but I do feel like it makes more sense to do them with this guy. I'm thinking I need a little bit more gray, so I'm gonna add in a little bit of white, a little bit more white, I should say, to my paint mixture. Just throw a couple of these guys on. Yeah, a little bit more gray even. So let's grab more white, get that onto my brush, and then just keep going. Oh, maybe too much gray. That's just going into the background color now. Okay, gonna try third time's the charm. Yeah, that looks closer to what I was shooting for. So, as we come down, we can kind of give ourselves a couple indicators to know that we're headed in the right direction here. Get a little bit more dark in there. A little bit more white. Get a little bit more paint in general. Jeds. Woods. And then as we go down, we kind of want these guys to change their direction a little bit. Just so that they're flicking out like that. I'm gonna get a little bit more gray going on up here. There's a lot of black happening, which is fine, but not exactly 100% ideal. And we're looking like we're coming in a pretty good direction, I gotta say. With stuff like this, usually helps if you kind of mix up the lengths of them too. So make some short, make some tall, mix up the lightness and darkness. So make some super black, make some less black. I could use some more hot cheddar back here. Wow. Make it nice and feathery, and I am missing a section right down here, so I don't know if I need it. I'm 100% here. There is going to be a flower here, so it's not like it's a total waste of space to go ahead and do that, but I am feeling a little bit like I don't really need anything right here, because I'm going to have a flower that's going to come from about here to here, so it's kind of a waste of my effort to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to leave that there for now. We can, however, start thinking about putting in a couple leaves, because these guys are gonna be best done This is tough because we definitely want them to be underneath the flower, which is usually easier to just paint them and then paint over top if you're trying to do that. My music is getting weirdly loud, so I'm just gonna turn that down. All right. Ooh. Wow. And I am feeling a bit squashed on this side, which is a little bit too bad, but I think it's gonna be okay. Let's just go ahead and put in maybe a little bit more black for the leaves. So we got some leaves right here and right here that we want to put in. I'm thinking that the easiest one to do leaves with probably is going to be this guy right here, medium-sized brush. So I'm going to get a little bit more black on my canvas or on my palette here. And then let's go ahead and throw a couple leaves in, or try. We'll see what happens. I'm getting used to these new brushes, so I don't quite know. Let me do a little like test one on a plate. Another one kicking around. Do a test one on the back here. All right, so let's just see how we can maybe do a leaf shape. So if we start off, this brush is not naturally going to give me a very good leaf shape. Let me try with my big square one, see what happens with that. Oh, okay, that's gonna work a lot better. So you can see the difference between those two different brushes and how they can give you different shapes. So much easier to get the little point at the end of the leaf with this big square one. So never mind, we're gonna keep on going with this brush. Now looking at here, there's a couple different places we've got leaves. So we've got leaves coming up right about here, here. Oh man, it's all right, it's just part of the background. Easy peasy, look at that, disappeared. Alrighty, so we're gonna go in with some pure black for these leaves. And I'm gonna go right up here and we're gonna try to take a little bit of paint off there, and then we're going to start at the edge of the leaf. It's gonna come back down to about the middle here. So I think that I'm going to take it to about there, and then take it to about there, and then just paint that in right there. What a beauty. And at the very end of our leaf, it looks like we have like the suggestion of a stem, but it's going to be layered with some other leaves, so we don't need to worry about that one too much. Now I'm going to be taking this guy right here. And then there's another one kind of going off in the opposite direction right here, a little bit bigger, goes down a little bit lower. So I'm going to start it maybe right about here. Make it a bit bigger. And then lower. Like that. And so when I'm doing this, I'm holding my brush like this and I'm just pulling right down on the canvas like that. Okay? Get a bit more water. I think I can make this leaf shape a little bit more broad in the middle. It'll help. And lots of water on your brush while you're doing this. You don't want to overdo it with the water, you never do, but like you usually want more water than you think on your brush if you're new to acrylics. If you're experienced with acrylics, maybe you just enjoy my company, but why are you here? All right, we're gonna come down here and now add another leaf. It's gonna overlap that one, and it's gonna be, again, a little bit thicker and just come right over top here. And for me, I have made them a little bit farther away maybe than they would ideally be. So I'm gonna invent a leaf. We're gonna get creative. And I'm gonna do another one, probably just a little guy coming in right here, overlapping this one, like that. Okay, and then we've got some nice, beautiful leaves going on there. I like them a lot, actually. They look pretty, and they're standing out very well because, you know, they're black. Another fabulous color to do this in, by the way, instead of black, use purple. I have to do this black because that's the way that it is, you know, advertised. But if you want to do this in purple, it would look real nice. The only thing I would say that if you're gonna do purple, maybe lean more into the yellows, less into the orange. But orange and yellow will both look fine. Okay, now let's go throw on some more leaves over here. This is gonna be on the other side of my flower. So I'm gonna have one coming in from about here, just poking right out. And then it's gonna come in over there. How big do I want my flower? I want it to take up, oh geez, that's a massive flower. It's gonna take up like, yeah, from here straight down all the way just about here, and then over half the canvas. So it's gonna go all the way over here to just about over half the canvas, which means my leaf needs to stick out to about 3/4 of the way here. So I'm gonna do a little woo. Maybe make it a bit longer. It's not the most ideal leaf shape. Let me just see if I can fine tune that a little bit. There we go, getting better. Fun thing about leaves too, lots of people think that they have to be painted in a very specific way. Leaves, honestly, go like get a picture of a plant and just trace all the leaves. They're almost random shapes because you see them from all different angles and they grow differently depending on different conditions. So doing leaves oftentimes really fun because you can kind of just freestyle the shape and they'll almost always look like leaves as long as they're in the right context. If they're not in the right context, like this beautiful little flower drawing here, then sometimes they'll look a little bit off. But I don't think that this one's too bad. Okay, nice. So you can already see we've got a beautiful little spot for a flower right here, and then we've got two little leaves sticking out right there. Thinking about other things we can do now. So we do need to let these leaves dry before we put our sunflower on. It's really important that we do because if we don't, then we're gonna get black mixed into our sunflower, and once you get black in that sunflower, you're not ever gonna get any, you gotta wait for it to dry fully. You're never gonna be able to bring that back to a really nice yellow. It'll just always be kind of like a gray, green yellow. In the meantime and in between time though, we've got a lot of flowers to do. We've also got a couple little accompaniments as well. There's some little corkscrew things going on here. So let's go ahead, switch back to our detail brush, add in those branches, and then we're gonna move on to the flowers. So I'm going to make these a little bit more gray, I think, than the other branches were. So I'm gonna take a little bit of white, mix it over here, take a little bit of black. We're just gonna go in with it's still dark gray, but like a lighter maybe a little bit than the back ones are. And so this one comes up over top. It's like a little double helix sort of shape. So that means that it's gonna wind one way and then intertwine with it in the opposite way. And we wanna come all the way down to here pretty much, and then we wanna just do a wavy line, add more water, add more paint. You could probably even do this with your square one if you're careful. And then as we get to the tip here, we're gonna be taking pressure off of the brush, and that will result in a thinner line. I do think that it needs to be a little bit lighter though, so I am gonna steal some more of this paint again and stick it in here. Okay, nice. A little bit lighter of gray. And when you need to lighten stuff like this up, while it's still wet, you can pretty easily just drag your brush over it. It'll mix a little bit with the color in the background, but in our case, that's gonna give us a nice texture that's desirable. So that's not too much of a problem for me because it's, it's just gonna make it look a little bit more interesting to look at. And then I just wanna get the tippy tip of that nice and narrow. Nice. It got a little bit bigger on me, but that's okay. It was always meant to be that big. It was in the cards. All right. Okay, nice. So we've got one going off that direction. I think I'm gonna take the other one a little bit that way. So this one, I might wanna start from the tippy tip. Gonna get a little bit more white going on in here because as I've done this, my paint's picked up a little bit more of that dark color from the background, and so my overall color on my brush has gotten a bit darker. And so for this one, we're gonna start at our tippy tip, really light, pull it down, and then we're going to interweave this in basically the opposite way that the other one is working. So every time this one goes this way, the other one should go the opposite direction. Beauty. Yeah, it's real nice. Okay, cool. So now we've got a nice little branch going up over there. We've got a little corkscrew branch coming down from the right side here. Okay, and then it's going to come right in between these leaves. So I am going to layer it in over here, and then it's going to come this direction. And then just do a little loop-de-loop. My loop-de-loop baby is a little bit small, but that's okay. Probably the most important thing is just making sure that we've got a nice tip on it and that it gets bigger as it gets towards the base. And if it mixes a little bit with the leaf color in the background, that is fine. Nothing wrong with that at all. All right, cool. So now we got a little corkscrew coming out of the bottom as well. How fabulous. I have smushed my leaf just a little bit though, so I'm gonna do a little bit of surgery. Come back here. I often, chronically, when I'm teaching paint night stuff, rest my hand there. There we go. And then end up smushing it. But that's all right. We're good to go. Okay, thinking. What should we do next? With these little flowers, I think that the round brush is going to be the best option. So my round brush looks like this. Nice little round brush. What I am thinking is that I can push to get a big line, and then I can take pressure off to get a much thinner line. So let's try this out and see how it works. We're going to start with a little bit of yellow flowers maybe, and we want to make sure that we're dry. So by now it should be dry. There are some spots on here that look like they might not be. Like that part is not dry yet, so I want to avoid that. But all of this seems pretty dry down to here. So this is a pretty safe area to start playing. And there's no particular place you have to put flowers on stuff like this, although we do want to keep a couple things in mind. To make sure it has a nice texture to it, we kind of want it to be loosely mixed. So I'm going to be taking this yellow. It's really bright the way it comes out of the can, or a bottle I should say, I guess. Doesn't really matter. So I'm going to take a little bit of this, put this off to the side, and then I'm going to mix a bit of red into it. Now red's pretty powerful, so you don't usually need too much. But if you mix a bit of red into it, it'll go a little bit orange on ya. And then from here, we can take this with a little bit of the yellow that's on the palette. And also, actually, now I'm thinking about it, a bit of white as well. White helps other colors be a little bit more opaque. So if I add white to this, it will actually make it a little bit less transparent. And it'll be harder to see through. So I've got a nice little, whoa, orangey sort of color. Go in there. We can take a little bit of yellow, mix that in roughly. And let's try this out. I am going to try this out on the back of my plate first because again, new brushes to me. I don't exactly know how they work, but I think if I push down like this and then pull towards the center, that should be a nice petal shape. And then you can kind of rinse and repeat just like that. Wow, more or less, until you get the shapes that you want. So that looks fine to me. Let's go ahead and, oh shit, I got to get some new water though. This is really dirty. Wow. Alright, so usually when I teach paint nights, people want to change their water far too often, but in this case, we did just use black all over the back of the canvas, and now we're trying to use really light colors like yellow. So what happens is you wind up getting the paint water, changing the color a little bit too much. I would say 90% of the time it's not going to matter. People definitely overestimate the impact that paint water is going to have on their painting, particularly at the level you're usually painting at with paint nights. So people get a little bit, I think, overly concerned about it, but in this case, it makes a lot of sense to change it just because it's going to be a very different color if we don't. Which is fine sometimes. Like, if you're okay with it being kind of green. Ah, see, I got a little bit of black in this, and now it's toast. All right, we're going to grab a different plate here. With some different white. My white is a little bit runny, and so it's kind of gotten all mixed in with my black. Can't really trust it anymore. So we're gonna just chuck a little bit of white on here. Clean off my brush. And then let's try this one more time. Okay, we got a little bit of blue, yellow. That's the word for it. And we got a little bit of red. And now we've got a nice orange mixed up here. And I'm gonna take some more yellow, put that off to the side, and just mix what I've got on my brush. So now I've got a nice orange, I've got a nice yellow. I'm gonna take a little bit of this white, mix this in. Again, making it a little bit more opaque. Okay, now is the time where we are gonna start getting some good flowers on the go. I'm just gonna grab some more yellow, put it onto my new palette here. And then, well, it's still roughly mixed. And when I say roughly mixed, you should see some yellow, you should see some orange. If you see some white, that's also okay, but you just should see multiple colors on your brush. It shouldn't just be one color. And then we can start plopping flowers down wherever we feel like they need to be. So I think that, you know, it looks like they're kind of all over the wreath, including these little hairy areas. So to do the flowers, I'm just gonna press down and pull back in, press down, pull back in, press down, pull back in. Just like that. And that's not as opaque as I want, so I'm going to mix more yellow, or more white into the colors that I'm mixing here. And try that. I also am going to mix a little bit of white into my yellow. See if that works out maybe just a little bit better. And then we're going to try this again. I mean, it works okay. It's just there's just a lot of black showing through the background. So let's throw another guy in. Maybe right here. That looks pretty good. We can have all sorts of different flowers on these things. Also mix it up, so I'm gonna put a little bit of red or orange in there. Looking really good then, thanks. A little bit of red in here, and then we can come up and put another bigger flower right over here maybe. A little bit more orangey. And now we can start plopping flowers in between oranges and reds all over the place. So, take a little bit of orange over here. I think I'm gonna avoid this area still because it was still drying, but we can throw another guy, yeah, maybe right over here. Watch it. And nice. Okay, this is coming along pretty well now. We can go ahead and say hello to my dog. He says hi. He says, get out of my ravine. And then I'm gonna bring, this place is just one big flower. These ones are kind of more orangey yellow flowers. Let's do a little one. I'm gonna try to do a little guy. See how little I can get these flowers to be. That one's a pretty little boy. I like it. Okay. Let's clean this off a little bit, and let's just get a little bit more orange on the go here. So I'm going to go dip into my really, really orange color here, almost red, and let's add a couple more orange flowers in. It's okay if some of these guys overlap. Not all of them are going to want to overlap, but like, I mean, there's supposed to be one up here that's right next to this one. So we can do this guy. And just sneak that guy right in there. Throw another guy, maybe like right down here, just a little one. All right, a little bit more water in my paint and get a little bit more paint on my brush. Maybe mix in a little bit of yellow for some more texture. And we'll come down here and do another guy. And when doing this, generally recommend you kind of just flip back and forth between colors. So it'll help kind of you get a whole variety of colors going on. And I'm gonna grab some more red into my orange paint here. We're gonna do a much darker red one, and we'll do one little guy. Yeah, right up here should be just fine. Beauty. And then we'll come back in and we'll just do a black dot in the middle on most of these. But I'm gonna finish up doing these flowers first. So let's go ahead and put another red guy in like right here. And we can start making some of these guys big. It will save us time also to make them bigger because then we can kind of fill it in a bit faster. But you do want a variety of sizes. You don't want everything to be the same size because then everything is the same size. It tends to look really boring. Gonna do a weird flower down here where we do a little bit of maybe like brown, a mix of colors. I'm gonna give this guy another petal. Beauty. And then let's get a little bit more reddy colors going on here. So with the red specifically, you can actually mix black into it to kind of create a cool, beautiful, dark red color. So I'm going to just take the paint off my brush, add a little bit of red in here. And then we're gonna take a little bit of black, mix this in. And you can wind up getting like a really dark red like this. I'm gonna grab a little bit more red. It has the same effect as white, but with red specifically, it works to make it just look like a really proper poppy red, if that makes sense. I don't know if you're familiar with poppies. They are very popular here in Canada around Remembrance Day, which is like our Veterans Day. Wow. And then we can throw a couple of these dark guys in there. So we can do maybe a little guy like right down here-ish. And you can tell probably pretty easily that this guy's going to be much more opaque than the other ones. It's like a nice splash of red just brought into it. And it's distinct from the lighter red that has the orange in it. Looks very different when it's on the canvas. It's very striking and really pulls the attention. Okay, let's do a couple more things. So I think I need more. I can do a little red guy like right over here maybe. This is probably dried enough. Alrighty, cute little reddy guy over there. And I think I want to go back to oranges and mix up more of like a dark orange. So with this guy, if you mix black into orange, it turns actually brown or gray on you. So you oftentimes don't really want that. But I think what I'm going to do is take a little bit more red, mix it into my yellow here, and then we're going to have a nice dark orange to work with. It's perhaps a little bit too much. Yeah, there we go. I think that this is getting to be good. Okay. A little bit more yellow perhaps. And then even a touch of white to really help it. Yeah, there we go. More yellow, honestly. Okay, nice. We're getting there. We're getting there. Okay. I'm thinking about this actually now. Maybe adding a little bit of black would help get that kind of more dusty orange color. We're going to try it out. Let's take a little bit of this red, mix it in here, or maybe mix my orange into the opposite direction, like right here. Get a little bit more yellow and see what that does. Let's see how this looks on the canvas. It's a weird flower. It's got kind of odd petals, but let's go ahead and see if we can't help it out a little bit. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Get a little bit more water in my paint. It's not quite the dark orange color that we have up in there, but that's all right. I think that this is a lot closer to it, where I've got the orange mixed in with the other color, but that's fine. We can make a couple different varieties of color. No worry. Easy squeezy breezy. Okay. And then let's get a little bit more of that orange in on the right side. What's your favorite piece of artwork that you've ever done? Oh, that's a toughie. Let me see here. I don't know if I have it on hand actually, but I really enjoyed this one a lot. So this one is one of my more favorite ones. I don't love it like from a compositional perspective, but it involves some optical illusion, so it's really cool. I think the one that I've enjoyed the most probably is this one. I think is one of my favorites. I like it a lot. I think it's cool. I really enjoy the kind of like art and craft sort of aspect to it. So I like that one a lot. What? Oh, and then how about? I don't know. I like a lot of what I make. That's kind of why I make it. But another really good one. I don't know if I have it on here. But it's my very first art therapy. That one I enjoyed a lot. Let me see if I can find it for you. I think it might be on my Instagram still. Where is it? It's hidden, I'm sure, but I think that it might still be on there. Yeah, here we go. That would if I have the one that's most near and dear to my heart, it's definitely this one. This is the first art therapy I did, and so it's not the most technically best, of course, but it is definitely my favorite one I think that I've ever done. It's the first one that I like tried making properly, although I don't know if that's really an accurate statement, but it's the first one that I really enjoyed making, I think. And I've always liked to do like arty stuff, but I really didn't do a lot of arts and crafts until recently. Kind of got into it after I started doing art therapy, and then I started to enjoy it a little bit more. You know what, maybe there's potential for this like weird color that I made over here. We could maybe make this a little bit more orangey. Okay. And let's get a couple more flowers in over here. So we need maybe another big guy right there. This guy has a lot of petals. Okay. And then we need a little bit more of that orange thing. Going down right around here. Wow, that was maybe not the most ideal. It's a nice thing about flowers and a lot of natural things. You can kind of get away with making them whatever shapes. They're cool, you're so good, you're an amazing artist. Well, thank you. I don't really think I'm actually particularly good at art. I have had to work really hard to make myself do it. I've always been pretty good at like visual design, so like when it comes to like putting my clothes together and stuff like that, I've always been pretty good. But I haven't really appreciated that until recently. Okay, I'm thinking that that's probably enough flowers for now. We've also got these dots, and there's a couple different ways we can do these dots. They're the same sort of idea color-wise as the flowers. I'm gonna experiment with a couple things. One of my favorite personal ways to do these sorts of things is to use the back of the brush because you get like a nice little dot. So let's try putting in a couple of these dark red dots and seeing what happens here. So they kind of look a little bit all over the place, but they're not really. Like there's a couple like right there and there. Ah, that works actually amazingly well. Better than I thought it was, despite the fact that I do it all the time. Alrighty, let's go ahead and throw a couple more of these guys in. Boop. 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 Ah. The one thing that I should mention when you're doing this sort of thing is you do need a lot of paint on the back of the brush when you're doing it. Otherwise, it'll come off in the way that it just came off up there. It comes off a little bit funny. We could also try the front of the brush. I haven't really tried it yet with these brushes. I do drawing, but everything I draw is so big and doesn't fit on the page. Interesting. That is not a problem that I've really seen before. Why don't you just draw things smaller? Like, I don't know, maybe I don't fully understand what you mean. Like, so you draw it and then it winds up coming off the page. Is that just because you keep drawing and then as you keep drawing, you're like, it needs to be a little bit bigger here or there? Yeah, the front of the brush works, I think, pretty well with this round one. So I think that that's probably going to be the choice, because the harder I push on it, the bigger dot I get. And these dots can stand to be pretty big. And kind of inconsistent results with this, but that's okay. Gonna throw in some more of these guys, like right here. I think maybe every time you do it, you want to dip back in. Is that the trick? Maybe. We'll find out. Add more water. Okay, yeah, more water is what we need. Actually, that's the real key to doing this well. Okay, let's go throw on a couple more guys. With stuff like this, I always recommend to people, the less you think about it, the better typically it will look. Let's get water. Mix paint. I'm having very inconsistent results with this, so like this is too much water now, maybe. Yeah, if you do a little swirly motion, that kind of helps too. Let's get a little bit more red on here. Of this dark red. Alrighty, and then we're gonna do like a little dot right there, and then maybe even a littler dot, right there. Beauty. This is another nice little mindful part. This is way more fun than drawing the squiggly branches in the background, I gotta say, by about 10,000 times. You just get to kind of poke everywhere and enjoy life for a little bit, which is nice. You don't always get the opportunity to do such things, so it's really great when you do get the opportunity. Let's do some lighter ones. Okay, a little couple of bright dots contrasting nicely on here. I would like a little bit more of my paint coming off my brush. This round one is really bad for just sucking the paint up into the bristles, which is fine a lot of the time, but in this particular moment of my life, I would prefer it not to. Because like when I rinse it and get all the paint out, it shrinks down to like a little bit, and then I wind up putting a bit of paint in it, and the paint gets sucked right up into the bristles. All right, let's go for it here. These guys. Okay. Add in a couple more of these guys, a little bit more orangey dots. I always like to say, you know, when you're looking at stuff like this, you want to kind of ask the canvas what it needs. So, and what I mean by that is you want to rely heavily on your actual vision to tell you what you need to do. So rather than using your brain, like you might be tempted to, and thinking about where things should be and what might look good, you should think less and you should just look at it and see what you feel like it needs. Because art oftentimes is more about feeling than it is about thinking. Another good reason to enjoy a good art. I definitely want some lighter ones in, but I'm running out of light paint, so I'm gonna have to mix up a little bit more. Take some yellow, just mix it right over top of here, honestly. And then should have a good chunk of paint there, maybe even some white mixed in. Get a little bit of water on my brush, get that in here. And let's see what we can do. I want to kind of scrape it out a little bit and then put it on the tip. Okay, let's try this. Yes and no. It's not really ideally or working in the ideal way. Maybe the real trick is to get this bloated with paint and then go from there. So let me just add in a lot more yellow to this. Let's go focus on a slightly different area of the canvas and just see if we can dip into this. That looks like a nice color. And this is the part of paint nights where, you know, you really get to be a little bit creative. Because, look, you're trying to follow where every single dot is. You're not going to have a good time. You're not going to, number one, you're not going to be able to see. Number two, you're just going to be stressing out over whether or not it's in the right spot. So with stuff like this, I always encourage people, you know, don't think about it. Let your hand do the work. Let your eyes do the work. Don't stress too much. And just put them wherever you think they might be. It's pretty hard to screw up your painting at this point by putting little dots on it. It's possible if you really go overboard, but I mean, like, even if it gets a little bit screwed up, at least you'll learn something. I think I'm pretty happy with where it's going. I think I might want to do the flowers next, the inside of them. So for that, I'm gonna want, not exactly a black, but a pretty close to black, I think. I want a gray that's pretty darn dark. So let's go ahead and mix some black into this gray that we have left over. And yeah, we're gonna take a little bit of that and we're just gonna go stick it in the middle of the flowers now. If you don't know where the exact center of your flower is, that is okay. Just guess. Nobody's going to notice, that's for sure. And you can kind of poke this one, I think, to get a little bit more of that flower texture. So like if you don't poke at it, it'll be pretty straight on the sides, but flowers don't often look like that. They kind of look a little bit fuzzy around the edges. Coming together. We grab a little bit more of this dark gray. And one more. Okay, so we've got all these centers into my flowers. Oftentimes, while I'm doing stuff like this, whoa, fuck off. Sorry, TikTok forces me to, oh, thanks so much for the hearts. TikTok forces me to verify myself every once in a while, which is endlessly annoying, but it happens. Okay, once I've got those middles in there, I think now is the time where I want to put my big flower in. And then after you put your big flower in, you can always add in more flowers and stuff like that. It really just depends on what you're doing. So we do have to go over black with this though. So I think what my first step is going to be is I'm going to load up on yellow and mix a lot of white into it. So I'm going to put a lot of yellow onto my palette. And then we're going to mix a good amount of white into it. That might have been too much yellow. I'm going to put it on the side here. It's all right, though. Sometimes you just get a lot of yellow. Okay, and we've picked up a little bit more, again, you know, darkness in our paint water. I might give them 2 cups of paint water, and hopefully they'll remember to, you know, I'll just give them change if they need to. Okay. All right, so I've got a lot of white mixed in with my yellow here, which is great because I'm going to need it. I am going to also probably need just a little bit of red, so I'm going to steal some of this and mix this in to give it a little bit more of a rich color. It ends up being a little bit more like a golden yellow when you mix red into it. If you go too far with the red, yeah, it'll turn into, what's the word? It'll turn into something that's not ideal. I can't recall. Okay, so now with the flower, I want to pick a center point. And the center point can be yellow for now. I'm going to go over it again with some, I mean, it looks a little bit browny, but really black, I think, is what we're going to do. Looking at where the position of the center is, it should follow along here, be a little bit inside from where this is. And then on either side of these flowers, it should be not quite cut in half. So if I did from this leaf here to this leaf here, it's a little bit over halfway. So I'm going to pick my center point to be probably right around here, maybe. So this is where I want to pull all of my petals into my flower from. And as far as where you want to go, what I would say is maybe pick one flower petal to be your like kind of lead flower petal, and then you will essentially just go from there. So I am going to pick this flower petal. I know that it pokes up into these leaves. I'm going to start it really, really thin over there, and then it's going to thicken out and then thin out a little bit as we come towards the center here. I can thicken it out on the sides a little bit. Doesn't have to come to a beautiful complete point at the end, because we are going to be pulling lots of these petals down, and we're also going to be putting some stuff in the center here. So now I am going to, one of the problems that I always run into with flowers like this is that I don't angle them enough, or as much as I should. So what I'm going to do to help alleviate that problem, or prevent it as much as I can, is I'm going to make a cross to start out with. So it's going to give me some guide petals, basically, as far as where I need to be tilting my stuff to. If you want a very non-symmetrical look, then this can be detrimental, but we're going to try to keep this about the same length as that other petal. So if I bring it back to the center over here, I can tell that it's not quite as long, it's also not quite as thick, so this is a good opportunity for me to make some adjustments. So I can pull this down here and make it a little bit longer. And just pull it out like that. Okay, I think that that's pretty okay. Now we're gonna go and do the cross section. So you can tell on this one, there's not an exact cross for cross, but it's close enough. If I come down here, around here, this gives me maybe right here as my petal edge. Beauty. Next one. Gonna bring this guy in from right around here. I can tell they ran out of space on part of it. That's funny. And then I might bring this guy in as like a line that way, and then once I gauge that that's about right, now I can pull this back, push, and then pull it back like that. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with the direction of these initial petals. I think that they are going to be easy to fill in, and I just want to make them now a little bit more bulbous and ellipse shaped. So I'm going to pull this guy out a little bit more on this side, pull this guy out a little bit more on this side, pull this guy. Ooh, maybe a little bit too much. Like that. And if you just stick them out on the sides, they go from looking kind of like straight and flat to more voluptuous petal-y shape. Wow! I dropped my paintbrush and then I got a bunch of white in it. Not the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination, but I definitely needed to scream there. It was required. Okay, now let's stick a couple of these guys in. Now, how many petals can I fit in between these? I don't want to really care enough to count the petals that are on there. I'm more interested in how do I make this look good. So I think I'm going to do 3 petals in between each. So I'll start one in the center. Maybe pull it out a little bit longer. Like that. And you can tell now already this guy's kind of come together. We're going to probably do a couple more layers of color on here because we need this to go a lot more in an orange direction. But it's coming out pretty good right now. So I'm going to again just see what I can do to make these guys come out like that. The reason why I'm doing this in a light yellow to begin with is primarily because there's black behind it, and so I want as little of that black background as I can to show through, and have nice, strongly saturated colors here. So as I go through and I do this, I'm gonna let it dry a little bit, let that yellow take to the background color, and then we'll come back in. And this, normally I advise people against using very thick paint, but for this one, really thick paint is very advantageous because we're going to be doing lots of color mixing later on. And by later on, I mean pretty quick here, but, whoa. This guy could have been pointier. That's all right. Not all petals were created equal, you know? Especially by me. The nice thing about painting too is, like, you know, if something's not quite tall enough or whatever, it can always just grow a little bit and it's fine. You know, it's not going to be a huge deal either way. These new brushes are definitely a bit of a learning curve. I'm getting used to them, but I am enjoying them so far. They do, especially on these big canvases, help me get the right amount of stuff on the go. Okay. So now let's just kind of envision where our center of our flower might be, and look at that. That looks pretty fucking close to what I got up there. It's just not quite the right color. It's also absolutely massive. Thank you, Fabulous Creations, for the hearts and my swearing. I appreciate that, because not enough people, I think, these days appreciate swearing. Some of us, it's a way of life, you know? Okay. Well, for these, I think what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go to the petals that are already kind of dry, and we're just going to mix some red straight into them. And we're just going to bring them down, or try our best to bring them down like this. The more that I touch these and work them, I mean, I might need to let these dry a little bit longer. Let's, let's give that a hot minute, I guess. Let it dry, get a little bit sticky, and then once that's done, we can come back in with yellow and red, and we can make a really nice, beautiful, sunflowery, orangey sort of thing going on. I guess in the meantime, while I let that dry, I can come back to these guys. My biggest problem with the center of these petals is that a lot of them aren't dry yet, so that's going to be a bit of an issue. What do I want to do here? I think maybe I'll just go through and poke, like, in the meantime, in between time, poke a couple of different sized dots all over the place. throw a couple in. That one's too yellow. I'm gonna squash this guy. Where's my sock? There's my painting sock. Alrighty, got a little bit squashed, but that's okay. We can always go back over it and put a flower or some shit over there. Okay, now I'm just killing time. What do I want to do here really with my life? I think that what I want to do is take a little bit of maybe orangey yellow and stick that in the center of a couple of these flowers. Now, this one I don't want to do as thick as I did with the black dots. I want to see bristles when I look at directly at my brush. I got to figure out a way to get this guy to focus, but you can see that's kind of bristly. When you poke things with that, it's going to result in this sort of broken up texture. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. And so now I'm going to be hunting the ones that look like they're pretty dry. And the only reason why I care is because if I poke into it and it's not quite dry, I'm going to pick up black on the end of my paintbrush, and I don't want that because that means I'm going to have to like wash it every single time that I poke down, which is a lot of work. And I don't typically like doing tons of work. So we're going to go ahead and just gently, really lightly tap these guys wherever they're dry in the center, just a little bit. I've already picked up a little bit of black, but I think I can live with what I got. This one's looking kind of dry. And you can always do, if you put some on and it's like, maybe that's too much, just poke at it. You can also hit it with a paper towel or something like that, and just take a little bit of the paint off. Looking good so far still. Just with gentle taps. That one is too black, so now I gotta wash my brush 1000%. Okay, that was all nice. I think that this is probably dry enough where I can start mixing some other stuff in now. So let's go ahead and do that. We got lot of yellow here. Very nice. Got some orange. Ooh, that's maybe not the right color of orange, but that's all right. I'm just gonna grab some more red and we're gonna mix up some more orange here. Get some yellow. And yeah, let's go with this, see where this takes us. I am thinking I've got too much red on my brush. Yeah, I've got way too much red on my brush. I'm gonna take that off. We're gonna get more yellow on here. And a little bit more, yeah, just mix that together. It's not going as easily as I was hoping it would. I might have added it in with a smaller brush, but I don't want to do that because that's too much work. Glorious thing about paint is that it always covers up other paint. So we're going to start with this and see what happens. And then once we're done with this, we're going to go ahead and we'll probably come back in with some more yellow, possibly a little bit more of a nice red color. I'm struggling to think about how I'm going to achieve this really nice golden yellow color. If I had cadmium yellow off for this, that would be really nice because cadmium yellow is super, super, super yellow. But I'm limited to the resources that I have, which are these shitty Argisloth paints. So let us think about this and see what we can do. I think what I'm going to do, or try to do here at least, is just add red and yellow together and skip the white. And see if we can get a nice golden orange. It's really tough to get it with these paints, but sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. Let's try to see what we can do here. Okay, this looks all right. Used to be just a touch more yellow though, ideally. Let's try these guys as like the tippy tip color. I'm worried that I am working the back of the canvas and it's going to be not that, it's going to have too much of that black showing through. But this is looking like the right-ish color. And it's not exactly right, but this is probably as close as we're going to be able to get with these paints. Because, yeah, we can't... I might be able to get some like light yellow in on the corners, actually, now that I'm looking at this. So let's continue on with this. Get a little bit more of this coming in. Okay, looking nice. Let's get a little bit more red, a lot more yellow. Try to get back to that nice, beautiful orange color that we had. And there we go. Whoa. Whoa. Okay, it's looking like it's coming together pretty well. I think I would like a little bit more proper yellow on it. I think that I'm just gonna take some yellow, perhaps with a little bit of white, but I don't even honestly think so. And let's just put this around the edges here. I'm not cheddar. Who's being der boys? All right, let's put some of this straight yellow on, just the tips. Just the tip, just to see how it looks. I'm gonna wait and let that dry a little bit. In the meantime, in between time, what we'll do is we'll put the center in. So the center is gonna be, I would say, let's go for a really dark red. So let's go take black, but black with lots of red in it. So we're gonna take black off on the side here. We're gonna take a lot of red. Probably actually just mix it right here. And then it should kind of almost give you like a dark brown color. We can even take a little bit of yellow if you really want to bring it in like a brownie direction. And yeah, so it's kind of almost looking a little bit purple on here. Which tells me that we're just going to need a little bit more yellow, and then we're going to need to bring some black back in to help bring the color to a darker point. Let's go ahead and do that. We got some black, mixing this in, very nice. Okay. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to come through and we're going to kind of dot around the center here. So we are looking for a chunky looking center. We're not looking for something that is super, super smooth, because that'll look a little bit less flowery. And I'm just poking in the center with this brownish color. Just like that. And we are looking pretty good. I am going to expand this out a little bit. Expand my territory of circleness. And that's looking pretty good. Beautiful, big center in the flower. I want to go a little bit bigger with mine. I love sunflowers. I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be a sunflower, so I think that I'm going to make my center nice and big, because sunflowers have those ginormous, beautiful centers. And then we'll try and even this out with the color. It's picked up a little bit of yellow from the background, so it's got a little bit brighter. I'm going to take a little bit more black, a little bit more of this dark color, and we're just going to pepper this on top. Keep picking up the dark color, keep peppering it on top, and that's going to give us a nice little texture when we poke at it like this. That's similar to a sunflower. whenever you're painting anything really, or doing any sort of art, a lot of it is about making stuff that's similar to or looks kind of like whatever you're making, rather than stuff that looks exactly like it. Because if you were to do something exact, I mean, honestly, ever since photographs have been invented, it's a little bit boring. Okay, it's looking pretty good. I'm gonna let that dry because it is gonna dry a little bit darker than what it is when it's wet. I would love to come in, maybe with my detail brush for a little bit, and then play around. I'm really glad that wasn't full of water. I just knocked a cup over. Play around with the yellow here, because I gotta get a little bit more of this like vibrant, really bright yellow going on. But I'm a little bit at a loss to how to get it with these paints. It looks okay, but it's just not quite there. I think I'm gonna let it dry for even a little bit more. When I actually teach this one in person, what I think I'm gonna have them do is do like a really good couple layers of the paint on the main petal, and then try to come back to it after that. I did put the paint on pretty thick, so that's another problem. So, in the meantime, in between time, what can we do? We can look around and we can see what we want to do with some of these guys. There is a little flower right here that I didn't quite get, so we can add that guy in. Might as well. He's a nice little orange guy, so I'm just going to grab a little bit of red and some yellow, mix up a nice orange, a little bit more red maybe, a little bit more yellow maybe, and a little bit of this dark red would be not bad. There we go. Got a nice little dark orange here. And then we can add a little guy in, like right, not quite right there, but like right there. Actually, I like him more right here, I think. And that paint is just not nearly thick enough. Let's try to get a little bit more paint on there. I've got, this is not the best flower, but it's okay. And a little orange down there is okay. It's just not got quite enough paint, but that's alright. You can always come back to it. Okie dokie. Yeah, I guess at this point we just kind of gotta wait and finish it up. So give it a minute, have a break. I don't know what time it is, Mr. Wolf, but I think I'm making pretty good time on this guy. I have been trying to get a little bit faster with painting, so I am trying to do it a little bit faster than I normally would. Just because it's a lot of painting to do, and I don't have that much time to get it done. I guess, we can go in with some of the darker colors with the detail brush. So on the inside of the petal here, there's a lot of really dark color, and so we want to make sure that we see a lot of that. And so one way to do that, I'm torn between which brush to use. I'm going to try this guy while it's still wet, is just kind of paint on some red. Maybe a little bit too red. I could mix a touch of yellow into it to help bring it to more of that dark orange. And yeah, there's a little bit more of it near the center here. So let's go ahead and just do... I picked up the middle color. I hate when I do that. Well, what's the best option here? We can take our finger... Move this guy, move this guy, move this guy. Okay. All right. Let's just get lots and lots of this. I want a lot of it to come from the center. It's bothering me a lot that I'm not able to get the same colors as that are in the demo, but oh well, you do what you can. I think I'm going to swap to my big brush because doing this with the little one is just a little bit tedious. I would imagine that this is probably going to look better at the end of the day. As long as I don't scrape too much of this paint off or get too much black in it, it should be good. Yeah, this is looking okay. I'd really love to balance it with a little bit of the really bright yellow towards the edges of the leaf. Okay. Going in an okay direction now. This is the problem with the with the shit on the back. Because every time I swoop in, I'm taking a little bit of the paint off. It's not quite going through as thickly as I'd like. And when I do that, it shows to the background a little bit. So I wind up having these black streaks in my flower. Doesn't have to look bad all the time, but it's a little annoying sometimes. Because it just doesn't wind up coming out the way that you want it to. But I think this is working. I think that adding a little bit of this yellow near the top here is an easy way. Yeah, that's getting to the effect that I want it to get to, so that's kind of good. All right. And I do a little bit of blending towards the center flower. I like that a lot, actually. That's looking a lot better. I think I'm going to blend it a little bit more than what is currently blended. Add a little bit of definition in there. It's kind of finally getting to the point where it's drying enough on the outside for us to do more interesting things. I just need to pick up enough paint on my brush to do the interesting things. And yeah, it's looking like it's getting pretty good. I think I'm just going to take some of this yellow, pull some strips of yellow down into the flower. It'll help define these petals here. Oh, I think I'm going a little bit off. I bumped myself. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay, looking good. Alrighty. Okay, I think that I'm happy enough with my flower petals right now. They look okay. They don't look really as bright as I'd like them to. I might come in and do some touch-ups after this is time to dry and put in a little bit of more bright yellow. But right now, I think what I'm going to do is just take my little detail brush here and start adding in some of the center parts. So I'm going to mix a yellow with a white. There we go. Get a little bit more yellow in there. Okay. And I'm just going to dot around. The middle should be dry enough. It's not perfectly dry, but it's probably dry enough for what we need to do. So I'm going to start in the middle here just by adding in some dots. There we go. I have picked up a bit of paint, black paint on my brush. That's okay. I'm just going to wash it off. And then I'm going to start dotting around in a relatively thick circle. It's going to be just following the line. So I'll start with just dotting in a circle here. This gives me the most room for fixing it up later on. As I do this, I'm going to pick up paint from the not dry paint behind it. That's fine. Just wash your brush as you go through if you're trying this at home. And then once you've got your circle done, we can make that a little bit wider. Poke at it, back and forth a little bit. Adding more paint as we go through the process. And what a beautiful little sunflower. I think that looks pretty good. I think I'm going to tidy this guy up. I'm just coming in with no water or no paint on my brush, just a little bit of water. And as I blend this, just a little bit around the edges, I'm making this just a tiny bit thinner. What a beauty. Okay. I think that's going to be it for this one. Again, I might touch it up later. I don't know if you're watching this on YouTube or live or whatever, but yeah, I do paint nights. I'm going to be teaching this one tonight. If you do want a version of this that is practiced and less ums and ahs and figuring out, always do feel free to check out my website, mactacularart.ca, and you can book paint night. I am going to start doing online stuff eventually. Cheddar, thank you, buddy. But I don't know when that's going to be right now, so see you later, and enjoy.